Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm not gonna put that. It will get copyright strike.
CNBC.
Oh yeah.
Insert banner here.
Ding ding ding.
Okay.
Well, welcome to episode 3.
Episode 3,
Episode 3 of Much Ado About Economics.
where we will talk about the future of economics. The future is now.
The future is now.
The future is here.
Now we're going back to the future. All right, so let me tell you a story about this, and then we can move on. We can go ahead from there.
Okay.
So let me tell you a story of Xerox, the
Yeah.
fall of Xerox.
Okay.
So, as we all know, maybe some of you guys have no idea what that is. It's a copying company. They used to be a copying company. They used to have printing machines, and I mean, it was a household name.
Uncle, passport ke 2 Xerox kar do.
Yeah, basically that. Like, they don't say photocopy this, Xerox this. But over time, what happened was that they, instead of innovating and keeping up with the market and the economy and changes happening in the environment, they decided to take a 180-degree turn and end up just going for like financial services and stuff. So they work with like Medicaid and taxes and everything. They got in trouble for a lot of things because they don't have the expertise in it. Their expertise is Xerox.
Xerox.
Yeah. So that's an example of how a company had failed to adapt to changing situations, because while they were a household name, there were other companies like IBM and Kodak that grew in during that time. So before, Xerox was kind of like a monopoly at a time. They could sell their products for like $16,000. Then IBM came in and was selling the same thing, but even better to an extent, for $1,600.
I think another story that works really well like that is Nokia. Nokia was a staple.
Yeah.
Nokia was like, we can still quote that 3310 as probably the strongest phone alive. But see, like what Nokia failed to do, which many other manufacturers succeeded in, was the advent of touchscreen. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think touchscreen was something that was fundamental.
It was game changer.
Yeah, that was game changer when iPhone came out with Apple came out with the iPhone 2G.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was game changer. Another thing that was a game changer was BlackBerry.
BlackBerry was, but they didn't keep up because of touchscreen.
BlackBerry didn't keep up because of touchscreen. But you see how Nokia was the staple in the consumer line, as in household line.
Yeah.
BlackBerry was the staple in
Business.
and security, because BlackBerry has insane security encryption.
BBM.
Right?
Yeah.
And today, BlackBerry is in a way, like, even though BlackBerry does not make phones, they definitely have probably the best security systems on the market today.
Yeah, they do. They I think they're going into aerospace. They're going into other ventures as well. I'm not sure about aerospace, but they are going into other ventures in terms of security.
BlackBerry is into cars.
Yeah. It wasn't aerospace, I meant cars.
BlackBerry's into cars. Range Rover's whole tech is BlackBerry. The connection between the phone and the car,
Yeah.
that data integrity there, the connection between the different car modules. So like your infotainment system, your car's ECU, the speedometer, dash unit, all that data integrity and the data transfer is all secured by BlackBerry. A few years ago, there was a case where FCA, so Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, who do Jeep and Chrysler and Fiat and Dodge, because obviously they share the same platforms, right? So what happened is hackers were able to hack into those systems and compromise those systems to the extent where they could cause car crashes. Like they could completely take over the steering wheel, the AC, the drivability of that car.
Now think about like a Tesla, where everything's relied on electric and like technology. But Elon Musk said that it has a system where like it keeps it all internal. So even if a hacker does come in, it has like a fail safe where it just like shuts down kind of in a way. But like that'll be weird. Like you're in the middle of a highway and all of a sudden, boom, you're stuck.
Not just weird, but that's scary.
It is, yeah.
It's kind of like that iRobot movie. Remember the one with Will Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how that guy was so against this idea of robots, but nobody else was believing him?
Mm-hmm.
And I hope most people have watched this movie, because I think it's very apt in a way to how society can react to robots and artificial intelligence, purely because the artificial intelligence was going behind backs of humans to eradicate the human race
Yeah.
simply because it realized that robots are superior.
And humans are a source of destruction,
Waste,
waste.
in a way,
There you
right?
go.
Because robots are, in quotation marks, extremely efficient at what they do.
Yeah, but in
right?
reality, like, do you really think that could be the case? I mean, it is a fear, and in the distance, it is a possibility. But maybe we'll be able to curb it in a way, and that's why people are still going forward with AI and technology that way.
I think right now, artificial intelligence is very elementary.
Yeah,
There isn't sufficient research or there isn't sufficient data to prove the beauty of artificial intelligence or to get artificial intelligence to the point where it can think almost as if it's a human, right? Like, obviously, there are these beautiful stories of, IBM's computer, Watson, where a Japanese oncologist, one of the leading oncologists in the world, he takes a case of this lady, says that I have done all my research and this is the course of medicine that I choose for her. This is the course of therapy that I choose for her. Then they upload the same data into IBM's Watson, which is an artificial intelligence supercomputer that has gone through all of these lists and lists of just research about cancer and comes up with a second course of action for this lady, right? And they follow Watson's course of action.
Yeah.
The lady suffered less, she got better faster, and she's very healthy right now.
Yeah, so that's the power of AI is it can process a lot of information a lot faster than humans can. So in terms of like trying to figure out what to do and how to do it, you just input commands and information into it, and it can give you the best possible solution.
Yeah.
And that's the idea of AI is to make everything processed faster.
And to be able to predict,
Yeah.
to remove a lot of guesswork that exists in the market.
Uncertainties. Yeah.
Another thing that's very good is Salesforce.
Yeah.
So Salesforce is one of the leading CRM systems in the world right now. Okay, CRM is consumer resource management. Okay, and what Salesforce does is Salesforce has a module called Einstein, where which is their own artificial intelligence system, and they are able to take data that you have collected through your consumer resource management system, which could be through the orders that have been placed, right? The number of orders, the frequency of orders from your consumers, the type of feedback you get from consumers. It'll pick up all of this data that Salesforce can pick up. Take all your KPIs, key performance indicators, put them inside Einstein, the artificial intelligence system, and come up with a prediction model on where your sales are going to be within the next few months. What can you do to better sales? What will consumers like? The types of promotions they'd want to do.
But I don't think it'll be 100% accurate because at the end of the day, you cannot predict human behavior.
You cannot predict human behavior, but you can get a very strong idea. And Einstein,
you can get a better prediction than the Monte Carlo simulation, for example.
That's true.
Because you can vary more, but also be more precise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So Salesforce Einstein is doing a very, very good job.
And I feel like all this is possible because of big data, the rise of big data and analytics.
The rise of big data and analytics.
Big data is basically like, in the last 20 years, we've been documenting and measuring everything that we do.
Basically, since the advent of the internet.
Yeah, having access to that kind of information, now we put it all in one database and be able to analyze it is very helpful because, I mean, if used the right way, then we can solve a lot of our problems.
We can solve a lot of the problems.
Especially to do with efficiency. The questions of efficiency, waste management, and create new technologies that can help fix that. But at the same time, it requires a lot of knowledge on how to manipulate such data.
I think it not just requires a lot of knowledge, but also requires a lot of thought on the sensitivity of the data that we collect. Because we don't want to end up collecting data that breaches privacy laws.
Yeah.
We don't want to collect data that breaches trust.
Yeah. But that's the trade-off, right? That's where the best data is going to lie. Let's look at it objectively. What if you want to personalize ads for someone, for example, you need as personal of data as you can to be able to personalize the right ad.
That's true.
But at the same time, you don't want to breach privacy, so you have to guess.
Yeah.
You have to, for example, you can only follow what websites they go to, but you can't follow
what they choose on those websites.
Yeah, for example.
Or for example, you can't get their gender, or you can't get their race, or those sorts of information.
But at the end of the day, the biggest issue there is laws can't keep up with the rapid changing technology.
I agree.
And this is especially the case with privacy laws. I feel like every couple months there's new terms and conditions regarding privacy. Every time a new phone is out, there's always a question of privacy. And now Apple is advertising that they have upped their privacy. And now we hear about how Facebook is able to take data from everyone and use it against them.
Exactly.
Basically.
Right? Like, remember, I think we spoke about this in, I think this was the introduction episode where we spoke about how Facebook was handpicking users based on their political preference. And feeding them that political agenda.
Yeah. They're just
Right?
like strengthening views like that. But they're not giving like if used in the right way, there's so many advantages. Like you could give more educational content, right? You could give it like, fine, you have this political view, here's something to read about so you have a better idea of what your view is really about and who the politician you're following is really about.
Yeah.
Instead of spreading quote unquote fake news, right? Like, yeah, I mean, it's a big power to have to be able to influence people like that. And it's really scary in a way that, like, man, like you can't trust anything you look on online anymore.
That's true.
And that's why a lot of people tend to do this, like, social media detoxing, where they, like, just don't use social media for
like a week, yeah.
Like, they literally just go into the mountains and just stay there and, like, just stay with their own thoughts.
Just
and
hibernate.
I feel like it's very important in that sense, especially given the world we live in. But we're going on a tangent now. So next thing I want to talk about is also the rise of e-commerce versus retail markets, retail stores. I feel like e-commerce is rising. You look at Amazon, you look at the number of stores that have been shut down because
the number of jobs that are lost because of artificial intelligence. See, like I love this idea. I love this idea that we are coming to a more efficient world.
Yeah.
Right? I love the idea that we are able to do certain things from just being in bed or, just being around the house. Like if you had an Amazon Alexa, right, you can just say, Amazon Alexa, order me XYZ item from my wish list, and the Alexa will do it for you. Yeah. And you won't really have to do anything about it.
All you have to do is get up and pick it up the next day or in a couple of days. Yeah.
Right? So that makes everything very easy. That also makes us lazy on one hand, but it gives us time to do other things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So like you can make better use of our time than say going to the mall and like trying to pick out what you need. You just make the list on, like, for example, even Walmart is doing online delivery now. Yeah. And like this is what some companies that are successful at doing compared to Xerox is they were staying in their lane but innovating in their lane.
Like or maybe not innovating, I think it was more they adapted the change.
Yeah. What Apple did, for example, is what they call click and mortar. So you know how brick and mortar?
Yep.
Mortar.
Yeah.
Mortar. So they did what is called click and mortar. So what they did is they were able to have retail stores and online stores. And where you can get similar kinds of services.
Exactly.
Right? And I feel like that was a step forward. They stayed in the lane, but they innovated so it's easier for customers.
Exactly.
So for example, in the case for Xerox, their model back in the 50s was creating efficient communication between businesses.
Yep.
And they strayed away from it. And that was one of the, so I was reading this article about how to stay relevant as a business. And one of the things they said was you have to stick in your core competency.
Yeah.
Which is basically like, if you're, for example, for Apple, if you're in the market for phones and all that, you should stick to it.
You should stick to it.
Because you already have the market. Now you can bring something new to that market and innovate and do something better. So I feel like that's one way I would recommend businesses to keep going is don't stand still, because that's a form of falling behind.
Yep.
You have to keep moving forward and keep reinventing yourself, but stay in your lane in the sense that
don't stray away from the values and motives of your business.
Yeah.
But adapt the new technologies that exist in the market.
Yes, exactly. That's
right.
Well put.
So that you are always leading it. Like if you think about it, when we go to McDonald's, do we really go to the cashier?
Never
go to the cashier.
Rarely.
We would rather go to the screen, tap a few buttons, order.
Yeah. Or just use the app beforehand and go pick it up. Right. Or you Uber Eats. Look at what Uber did. They have a network of drivers.
Yep.
Right? That's how they started, just like a taxi service. What do they do?
Network of partners.
That's
it's very smart legal jargon that Uber uses, because if you call them drivers, it means you have to get them taxi licenses. You have to get the cars validated by taxi companies. They have to be regularly serviced. They have to be safety secured. The drivers have to pass a lot of safety tests.
So they made like a loophole in a way.
So they made a loophole
by changing the name.
By changing the name from a driver to a partner. So now you are not you are technically a contractor for Uber.
Yeah.
You are not an employee.
So from there, what they did was they created Uber Eats, so they could also compete with DoorDash. So like that is a perfect example of staying in your lane but innovating. That's staying in your core competency, which is having partners.
Logistics.
There you go.
That's what Uber is. Logistics.
Finding a way from getting point A to point B. If you can get people from point A to point B, why not get food from point A to point B?
Yep.
Right? And groceries. Now they do groceries. They do pharmacy, do all kinds of things now.
Exactly.
So that is innovation in my
innovation, staying in your own lane.
And speaking of Uber, that's an example of sharing economies.
Yep.
So what sharing economies, we can give other examples is Uber, we have Lyft, we have Airbnb. We have enterprise car shares. Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like this is going to be playing a big role. This is going to play a huge role in the future because of cost.
Yeah.
As a company, you want to minimize the capital cost that you have. You want to minimize the real...
The fixed intangible assets, I guess.
Yeah. You don't want to have a lot of
tangible assets. Like they're tangible assets. What are they? They're illiquid assets. They're hard to sell.
Yeah. And like at any given time when things are rough, you can't let go. You can't liquidate them fast enough. You can't make cash fast enough.
Exactly.
So if you outsource, I don't think it's the right word, but if you outsource...
I think outsource may be the right word.
It is. If you outsource your assets, for example, like a car sharing service where you have a big network of people who are willing to share their cars.
Yeah.
Or you just have a fleet of cars and you share it, but give it at a cheaper rate, but people can use it hourly, daily, and stuff like that. So like that's also innovation in a way. And I feel like sharing economies, you have Airbnbs where you want to be in a hotel, but you don't need all the services, for example. If you have an Airbnb, you just need a place to sleep.
That's true.
If you're going to for a nice vacation, Airbnb is perfect. You can decide how many days you want to stay. The rates are less. You just have a cleaning fee, and you have a lot of amenities that you need.
Yeah. And I think this brings us on to a very interesting point, is the conventional job market has now changed. The conventional idea of making money has now changed.
Oh, yes.
Right? It gives way to some sort of, let's call them semi-entrepreneurs. And the reason I'll call them as semi-entrepreneurs quite simply is that when you think of an entrepreneur, it's somebody who has come up with a business idea, who has scaled that business idea, and now operates that business upon multiple platforms, multiple venues, is able to generate sufficient revenue to live their life luxuriously, right? While also not having to work insane hours a day.
I still think it's entrepreneurship because I would call it like side businesses. Like life, like the job market nowadays is not about having one main job.
Yeah.
I mean, it is for a majority, but there's a big trend of having many different side things that give you different amounts of income that perform differently given different conditions.
Right.
And then from there, you can earn money that you need.
Right. Like, for example, if you were able to use your day job, your 9 to 5, to acquire a few properties, you put them up on Airbnb, and now you're renting them out for probably $100 a day.
Yeah.
You are able to make a lot of money by just that. Assume they were rented out every single day.
Yeah.
Okay. Assume they're rented out every single day. You have 3 properties. Each property gives you, I don't know, like $200,000 a year, right? You're able to pay off the mortgage on those properties, and you're able to make yourself some decent income on the side,
and now
while doing a 9 to 5.
And now you've increased your wealth by having 3 properties too.
Exactly.
So there you go. Like instead of nowadays, like people, if you look at it, like the housing market in Toronto, especially with the pandemic, the issue was that people were looking for long term because Airbnbs were basically illegal at this point. Because of the lockdown, you're not allowed to have them. So these little places that were used to be Airbnbs are now looking for long-term tenants because they want security. So I feel like something like that might bring changes in the future in how it works. But at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like sharing economies is how it's going to go from now on.
I completely agree with you. I think that sharing economies, I think that the conventional way that we look at an economy will change due to technological factors. Because technological factors, essentially, there's a level of production that an economy can produce, which is
Yeah.
called the PPF.
Yeah.
Right?
Production possibility frontier. Yeah.
Now, as we have improvements in technology, the ability to produce more increases, right? Which means that we're able to do more output. Now, output can come through many sources of funds. It could be through your regular 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It could be through side sources. It could be through investments. Investments. I mean, the super conventional term of investments, like fixed income, government bonds, those types of things.
And now there's content creation.
Yeah.
You look at YouTubers. Have you seen the numbers that people make? It's crazy. Like they can quit all their jobs and just stick to YouTube, and they're doing what they love. This man is streaming games on Twitch, making clips of it, putting them on YouTube.
Yep.
Right? He's making a lot of money now. Now what he does, he moves to Florida, buys a nice house. In the basement, he has an office, which is basically a gaming studio.
He has
like 3 PCs, 4 monitors, a keyboard, a nice camera, some lights.
Get sponsored by some brands.
Sponsored by the controllers, G Fuel,
Yep.
all that. And there you go. That's his life.
That's actually beautiful, because our economy is growing. Our economy is now, it's going away from that conventional 9 to 5 white picket fence
Like
sort of
nowadays. Having
mantra.
a degree, being a doctor, lawyer, engineer is no longer a measure of success.
Yeah.
It's about what you do with what you have.
Exactly.
The skills you have.
The skills.
And how do you? I mean, it's down to also transferable skills. If you think about it,
exactly.
It's not just about like what are you good at. Okay, but how are you good at it with people? How are you good at with making deals? How are you good at with problem solving?
Right.
So,
Like even entry level jobs, if you look at the job market, it's very hard for people like you and I to get into the job market because we don't have those skills.
Yeah.
Right. And all these recruiters are looking for these types of skills that you need to be able to succeed. Right.
Yeah.
Having a bachelor's is not enough to give you to teach you those skills, to have that education. They look for people with masters. Right. Even the whole immigration program is based around the fact that
you have work experience.
You have work experience. You get your bachelor's. You get another degree. You get your master's. You get more points.
Yeah, and you learn a second language.
Learn a second language. So it's all about all of these skills that you need.
Yeah, and not, even then, I feel like maybe this is right now. This is where we are right now. Give it like maybe 20 years. This is how it's gonna be. Everyone's gonna have the skills needed. Everyone's gonna have the same exact skills, different level of experience. Fine. How you gonna differentiate between people? You can have like 10 applicants with identical resumes. What do? You bring them in for their interview and you gauge their soft skills. And this is what it is like. Like this isn't. If I were to give someone advice about like job hunts and all that, because I mean it's not like I have gotten a job yet.
Yes.
I have gotten a job before, but I feel like this is what the trend could be. Is you're gonna be 5 people who will have the same amount of skills. It's not about where you graduated from and all that. It doesn't matter how many certifications you have, because anybody can get it at this point.
Yep.
It's down to like when you go to your interview, this is your moment to be yourself.
How do you differentiate yourself from everyone else?
Exactly.
Think of it this way. What makes BMW? What makes Mercedes?
Yeah, you have to go down to your goodwill assets.
There you
go. You could have, like, for example, like having a degree is an asset. Having
certifications are assets. Volunteer experiences assets. Level of skills, languages you speak. So right, we're looking at a world that in a way is becoming significantly smaller.
Yeah.
But significantly larger.
Yeah.
Right. You've got countries like Europe, Canada, like developed countries where the population in a way is sort of declining. Right.
Yeah.
The biggest population pyramid right now, like if you look at a population pyramid graph. The largest population is 40, 50, 60. In 20 years, these people are retired or...
Yeah. ...
And we are going to be, 40, 50, 60.
Yeah.
Like our generation is going to be in that age bracket.
Yeah.
Right? But the people who are just slightly elder than us, right? People who are 10 years older than us are less likely to have children than the people before them. Right? So now you have an economy that doesn't have the same population that was there in the baby boomer period or even after that. Right? You don't have those people anymore, which in a way is great. Why? Artificial intelligence, technology, we're going to be getting rid of all of these medial jobs. And what I mean by medial jobs or tedious jobs is an accountant. Like, no offense to all the accountants out there, but in a way, a lot of the jobs and a lot of the certifications that are done for accountants
Yeah.
are tedious.
Yeah.
Because accounting is straightforward.
So yeah, like that's what it is. Like if you're looking for a career where the task is just repetitive, there's a high chance that it's going to be replaced with an AI doing it.
Yeah.
Instead of having 4 or 5 accountants working for you, you're going to have one senior supervising accountant and like
A computer.
and a computer doing all the jobs.
Right? So now this is great. Your economy has shrunk. AI is going to take over all the jobs that you
more
don't
efficient.
need. They're more efficient, more productivity,
but now as a common man, it's going to get harder to get into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And on the other hand, now we've got developing countries whose population is booming. What happens there?
And
20 years from now, what does it look like then?
And we don't know if the technology, for example, like we are talking about the technology in the future of the economy, but we're looking at it at a perspective of here in Canada. You look at somewhere in Pakistan, or you look in the countries in Africa, there is development. But there's a lag. There's like a gap between those countries.
Right.
So we have to ask ourselves, like, okay, here we might have AI in the next 10, 15 years, but over there, how fast will we be able to integrate that?
And also, I think there's a lot of other questions that rise on the basis of security, government spending, the ability to collect taxes,
and accountability, like what they do with those taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what this will give rise to, especially in developing countries, is a lot of these new industries that we see here, like this whole sharing economies thing.
Yeah.
The idea of Internet of Things that we spoke about, the Amazon Alexa, the fact that Internet of Things is this concept where a lot of the bits and pieces in your house, in your life, your phone, your car will all be connected through the internet to provide you full connectivity so that your life is easy. So for example, you wake up in the morning, as part of your routine schedule, your coffee maker will start. Your car will start, your AC will start, your shower will be warm.
Yeah, like your toaster's gonna start. Like
exactly.
You just say like one command and you can just set up a whole routine that'll happen in your house.
Exactly.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Right? That's the major growing industry right now. You already have like Google Nest, you have Amazon Alexa, you have Siri as well. Apple's trying to get into it too. You already know that they're going to come up with something.
Exactly.
Right? Now, it's in their lane.
Here's a question for you. Where we are today, 20 years from now, we guarantee that we'll be significantly more advanced.
Yeah.
We'll be old with white hair.
Yeah.
But will places like Pakistan and India catch up to where we are now or catch up to where we will be in 20 years?
That's a very good question. And there are many factors to take into play. And especially in the case for Pakistan, I would say, I don't think they will. One thing's for sure, I don't think these countries will reach where we will be in 20 years. At that time, they won't be with us. But depending on the country to country of like political factors, social factors, and all that, religious factors, that will determine how far they will get in the next 20 years. And I think that's my answer. I don't think they will reach. And I feel like that could be a problem. At the same time, we will have, already we know the world is becoming more globalized. We have a lot of immigrating people going everywhere. That might reduce physically, but now because we have e-commerce, we have online businesses, everything is moving global. I feel like someone in Pakistan who has enough expertise and pull can get a job here and be able to take advantage of the industry here.
Now, another question that I think we can ask is, do you think that the brain drain within these countries will continue?
It depends on the laws, to be fair. I mean, think about it. If I'm sitting in Pakistan and I'm working for a company in Canada, where's my money going? My money is coming to Pakistan. Right? I'll be taxed in Pakistan.
Yes.
Right? So in a way, that's a positive thing we can look for. But I'm scared if that's the case, will Pakistan ever be able to create their own industry?
Now, so yes, like the foreign sentence, like, okay, consumption will increase in Pakistan because obviously now the money is coming in, and now I will be consuming in Pakistan. So I'll be buying and selling there. My kids will be going to school there.
Yeah.
I'll be paying for my house, car, driver, all those things.
Yeah.
Right? But then it could also be this model that I know Pakistan's not safe.
Yeah.
Right? So what if I do something else? I can work in Pakistan if I need to, because it might be
Mm-hmm.
easier for me. But my kids and my family could be somewhere else,
Yeah.
right?
To send the kids to boarding school.
Send
Or
the kids
they-
to boarding school,
Or what they can do is they can move to like defense.
right?
They can. That's the thing. Like there will be shifts inside. Those are two possible things that can happen. I feel like both are possible at the same time. Is that
I think we should
I-
explain to people what we're talking about. What do we mean by defense?
So defense are basically the easily put. They're the safer regions in Pakistan. They're more developed, I
Yep.
can say, and they have more security around them. So the crime is a lot less.
Yeah.
Especially when you live in when you're in a place where there's high number of population, high amount of poverty. There's a higher chance of crime.
Yeah.
So defense is like the government built sectors of the city
Yeah.
where there's more safety.
I agree.
So I feel like there'll be both kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of the balance of how many are actually staying and how many are actually leaving. Because I mean, if you look at in terms of the population, like Pakistan's a sleeper country.
Yeah.
The potential of that country is huge. It's in a prime location. You look
Yeah.
at the Gwadar port that they're building, right? It's a prime location.
It is.
And if everything goes right, some people will see that and they might end up staying and might invest in the country. There is a high chance of growth.
You know what I think? I think I'm gonna put a twist to this story.
Mhm.
What I'm gonna say is, I think what may happen is the way we see the populations in these countries decreasing.
Yeah.
I think the immigrant population that will migrate within 10 years from now. So assuming we're looking at 20 years from now, so 10 years from now, the immigrant population that's going to migrate and come here is going to fill in those gaps
Yeah.
and provide growth for developed countries. Because I think that places like Pakistan and India and China and all, like sort of underdeveloped countries, even Africa, right? I think people will find that moving to developed countries will give them security in life, will give them, because we have access to a lot of things, healthcare,
Yeah.
education, world-class healthcare, all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think people, and obviously safety, right?
Yeah.
We can walk out at 2 a.m. and know that we're not going to be stopped with a gun,
Yeah.
in a way,
In most
in most cases,
most areas, yeah.
right? So I think a lot of this immigrant population will move to Canada,
Mhm.
and a lot of this immigrant population will fill in those jobs that are going to be reduced. So like the population in these countries will still grow, right? Because we all know that the economy will always work with the population size. Like
Yeah.
the economy will always grow in proportion to population size.
Yeah.
So if population is going to be increasing, I think the economy will continue to grow. It won't shrink,
Mhm.
right? But there's obviously a high chance that with artificial intelligence becoming more and more adept, and artificial intelligence being adopted by a lot of organizations,
Yeah.
these jobs, these immigrants that will come in, are going to be swept out.
Especially like you know how you have the labor class and like the lower income, like you make that makes sense, and they'll be forced to go back.
I think so.
Or maybe if they are lucky, then their kids will be entering in that stream and be more qualified and be able to pick it up from there.
That's possible as well.
Yeah. But yeah, at the end of the day, like times are changing and we are in the middle of a revolution. You've had the industrial revolution, we've had the internet revolution.
I think now we're going to have a major technological change.
Yeah.
Right.
It's coming.
And I think we're seeing it coming.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a major population shift. There's going to be a major change in how we do business. There's going to be a major change in how we understand. I think there's going to be a fundamental change in the basis of economics, right? Because the basis of economics is based on consumer sentiment. It's based on government spending. It's based on investment. It's based on consumption. Now, I think your consumption is going to be spread out across the world.
Yeah.
I think that as countries will find it difficult to maintain their own economy.
Yeah.
I think we
it's
might
global
have to,
economy.
I think we might have to switch sooner rather. I think maybe later, but it could be soon as well, that we will switch to a global economy,
Yeah.
right? Because you'll have like, for example, now you've got output coming from London, UK.
Yeah.
Okay, that's considered foreign development, right? If it's sent across the border to the US, or if
Yeah.
it's sent to Africa or to South America, for example,
Mhm.
right? But what if the economy was global? Then any development that happens in any part of the world supports the whole, like the world economy as a whole.
But that's if every country agrees to share resources. Because you can't have that until you're agreeing to share. And
I think at one point they will be at gunpoint that they will have to share resources.
yeah, but who's gonna lead? There's always gonna be a country that leads.
I don't know if it will be a country. I feel like it will probably be an organization.
Yeah, you
Could
make a
it-
good point. Because like think about China. Have you heard about the 99-year loans that China is doing?
China's doing these 99-year loans, yeah.
And they're doing it with different countries. Now think about 99 years, countries don't pay back. What happened is
China owns them.
Basically.
China owns them. Like
or
the,
they
the
own
work that
whatever
they-
it is at the work they put
Exactly.
in. It's theirs.
So the stuff that they did in Kenya, the stuff that they're doing in Gwadar,
in Pakistan, yeah.
all of these things are going to be they'll be owned by China. But I think that it's the UN's mandate. I think this should be a part of the UN mandate that they should pick up their stance on technology and
Mhm.
start to figure out what is going to happen in 20 years.
Yeah. I think it's a technological revolution.
20
And
years
it's
is gonna
happening
be
right
weird,
before
man.
eyes. Like if you're someone who's soon going to be entering the job market,
Yeah.
you need to keep a look at this. You need to keep your ear to the ground and look at what's happening. Look at the industries that are dying. Look at the new industries that are coming. For example, like postal services are dying. Travel agencies are going to die.
Yeah. We're not gonna look at oil anymore. Oil is not gonna be the same thing anymore. We're gonna have
That's true.
renewable energy. We're gonna have everyone uses Netflix. Everyone uses Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Who uses cable TV anymore?
No, it's all streaming and subscription. Like there's a whole new business model,
Right.
right? And so you have to keep an eye out for that too. Like you might want to take up programming. You have to be tech savvy. You need to know how to maneuver around technology
Yeah.
and learn about new technology. And like basics of coding is not that hard.
The basics of coding is not.
It's
hard. I
just
think it's
learning the logic of how the computer works is not that hard. It's
Exactly.
very basic, and
the
if you can just
logic
do
of
that,
how to solve problems.
yeah,
Right. I think that the biggest thing that's going to be part of our economy is how people solve problems.
yes, and that's it. That's what it is. Like you don't. It doesn't matter how fast your mental math is. It doesn't matter how efficient you are at working, because they'll just find someone who's more efficient. So if you're
Yeah.
picked, you already are efficient.
Exactly.
So now what you need now is how you can
maintain your efficiency.
maintain your efficiency, work with the people around you, be motivated to work.
Mhm.
Those soft skills. That's what
Soft
it's down
skills.
to. And those skills are skills that can be transferred.
So at the end of the day, in 20 years, the thing that may not change, other than change, is soft skills.
Soft skills. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're human. And like if you isolate yourself from this, then you might get left behind. So you have to make sure like talk to people and figure out like talk to the people in your field. Feel their sentiments out, how they're
Yeah.
feeling, and be in the know of what's going on so you can decide what to do next.
What to do next? I think moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
the world will be extremely competitive.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of competition, and there's going to be a lot because a lot of basic stuff will go away.
And the
20
standards
years from now,
standards are going to rise.
standards are going to rise, basic stuff will go away, and we'll have much bigger problems to look at rather than, stock market manipulation. I think there's going to be so many more issues at hand
Yeah.
because we will have done so much further exploration.
Especially with big data, then we'll be able to. It'll be easier to understand the stock market
Mhm.
through big data and empirical data.
Yep.
And as we get more and more data,
Mhm.
it's just going to get easier for us to understand what's going on mechanically.
Exactly.
Now is to keep a lookout for sentiments,
Yep.
right? And like at the end of the day, like don't be afraid to take risks. Because
Mhm.
I mean, back in the day, if it was like, yeah, you're either a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and
Mhm.
you're successful. But now
Yeah.
it's much more than that.
It's
You-
much more.
you-
It's the different avenues of income. It's the different styles, the ability to
do different things.
Yeah.
Just like look at all the skills you have and put them into motion. Like just develop them. You read a lot. Like find ways that you can make most of your time that you have.
Yeah.
Like I mean, look at us. Look at what we're doing, right? Like we could have a job and we're doing a podcast, and you never know if this podcast blows up. If you guys,
If everyone likes what we're talking about.
yeah. And like here's another source of income too.
Exactly.
Like this, and it doesn't take a lot. Like we just got a couple things and we just started.
And we started.
That's
yeah.
all it takes. You just start.
Yeah.
And it's not even people think that starting a business requires a lot of capital. No.
No, you can. You don't need capital anymore to
Not
start
anymore.
businesses.
Not
There's so many ways to come up with money, to come up with ideas for businesses. You
Yeah.
don't need much.
Like let's give an example of what we're doing here is when you first told me about the idea, I was like, okay, but where are we gonna get the equipment? You're like, Saad, we can rent it.
Yeah.
Like it's simple. Like renting stuff has been there for a long time. I just didn't realize that that was the option.
Rent something so easy.
You could just rent the sound system and everything, and there you go. You just need a laptop with
a USB
software,
port.
a USB port. You just need GarageBand. That's very rare now. There are not many USB. Yours doesn't have a USB port.
But you can get adapters for USB ports. So
Yeah.
it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like
Technology.
don't be afraid to take risks. Education is not it. It's not everything. It's
Yeah.
important. You should go through it. It's like the foundation.
Yeah. It teaches you a lot.
Like university teaches, like
Discipline.
writing essays help you understand like how to create your argument, and base your opinion on facts. But at the end of the day, you're required to do more than that. You have to branch out, take risks. I would say that a lot, but take risks.
Take risks.
Especially if you're young, like you can do it.
Yeah. So in closing, the future of the world, like in 20 years, the world is going to be very different.
It's rapidly
The economy
changing.
is going to be very different. The technology we use is going to be very different.
Like, think of 10 years ago. It was so different.
10 years ago was so different.
Bitcoin just came up.
Yep.
Like,
So yeah, I think that was a very broad but very good discussion
yeah.
on how the world can change
Yeah.
and what skills people require from our end, at least from what we understand.
It's scary, isn't it?
It is.
It is. But to be honest, it's beautiful to be able to be in this position because we're witnessing it happening. Like the revolution is happening. It's happening right now.
And we see it happening.
And we're watching it happen.
Yeah.
And we're gonna keep following it too. Having this helps us to be able to keep up with it too.
That's crazy.
And I'm grateful for this.
Yeah. It's crazy how fast things are working. And it's good for us that we're able to use the skills that we're like we're putting our skills that we've learned to test.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
And we're also improving the skills that we want.
Yeah.
For example, having a good conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're trying to go from this to this.
Yes.
See? Like, and this is like what, space of 6 years?
6 years. Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
I got
that metaphor took a while.
Yeah.
You to catch.
Is this a 2016 model? Yours is?
No, yours is in 2016.
It is. I got it when I came here.
This is 2017.
1 year, and look at the difference. You have a touchpad.
Yeah.
You have USB-C.
Yes.
Look at that difference. That jump.
That's crazy.
Like, did you know like they had like basically we're done. But did you know that they already have technology where you can crush your screen? You can literally crumple up your phone and put it in your pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that.
They're developing that technology.
I've seen
that is so cool. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
I know this episode may seem a bit long and a bit tedious, but I think it was I think this discussion is fundamental.
Yeah. It's important to understand where we are right now. And that's why
important to set the tone.
That's why we thought we wanted to have this discussion because it's important to everyone. It's going to affect everyone and how we live. Yeah.
100%.
So I hope you guys enjoyed.
And see you guys
Next weekend. Take care.
Take care.
So yeah, so here we go. Here are a couple examples that we have. Go on. Sorry.
Of stories.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
of
here.
stories that
Bleep,
where
no. Bleep. Bleep. So here.
you should just put that randomly in the middle.
Bleep. I think we're both tired.
Okay, back to where we started from. So we were
Yeah.
at BlackBerry. So Range Rover